Lesson 24, Community, Belonging, and the Wound of Exile. There are wounds the body can point to, and then there are wounds that live in the space around you, in the empty chair, the silence after a gathering, in the way your chest tightens when you walk into a room and scan for danger. This is the wound of exile. Welcome back. In our last lesson, we looked at the courage it takes to take up space. Today, we address why that feels so dangerous, the biological and spiritual need for belonging, and what happens when that belonging is broken. Belonging is not a luxury, it is a biological need. Evolutionarily, being cast out of the tribe meant death. That ancient knowledge still lives in your body, responding to exclusion as if your very life were at stake. Exile doesn't just happen in big dramatic ways. It happens in 1,000 smaller cuts, the joke at your expense, the silence after you share something true, or the way people look through you instead of at you. Spiritual communities can wound especially deeply. When the institution that taught you love and mercy labels your identity as sinful, it is more than a social rupture, it is a spiritual fracture that reaches the core of your existence. For queer folks, this wound often begins long before formal rejection. Children notice the slurs and the jokes, internalizing the message, if you are fully yourself, you will be excluded. That message burrows deep into the nervous system. Collective crises, like the early years of the AIDS epidemic, added layers of exile. Watching family and institutions turn away while loved ones were dying created a legacy of disposability that still echoes in our communities today. When exclusion is repeated, the psyche forms a conclusion. I am fundamentally outside. I am not allowed to belong. This belief then colors every interaction, making a neutral glance feel like judgment and a delayed text feel like rejection. We develop strategies to survive the pain. Self-isolation often begins as protection. You might tell yourself you simply prefer being alone, pouring energy into work or caretaking to avoid the vulnerability of needing others. We might keep our true selves hidden behind a bright performance. The false self smiles at the party and excels at work, while the inner self feels like a ghost. The loneliness of this split can be as painful as outright rejection. People-pleasing is another strategy. You learn to read the room, anticipating needs and smoothing conflicts to preserve connection. But the cost is high. You trade authenticity for conditional acceptance, becoming a stranger to yourself. Some of us armor ourselves in superiority, aesthetic snobbery, or intellectual arrogance. It looks powerful, but underneath is often a young part aching to be let in, using contempt as a defense against feelings of inferiority. Before you can manifest community that honors your whole self, you need one place where you are not on trial, inside your own awareness. Inner belonging is the soil out of which all outer belonging grows. Beneath the learned roles and wounded parts, there is a core of you that is whole and connected. Whether you call it self, basic goodness, or the divine image, this essence is untouched by shame. Mindfulness helps us access it. Healing begins with a promise of non-abandonment. Instead of telling a wounded part to get over it, we sit with it. We say, I see that you are hurting and I will not cast you out for being too intense or too needy. This inner work changes your signal. When you rest in your own basic goodness, you walk into rooms grounded rather than braced. You carry a new baseline. I am fundamentally allowed to exist as I am. This stance invites a different response from the world. Once you heal the inner exile, you stop forcing hostile spaces to love you. You become less magnetized to communities of punishment and more available to communities of resonance, places where you are celebrated rather than merely tolerated. Belonging is something we generate together. By bringing your authentic self, your tenderness and your resilience into a circle, you become part of the medicine. Sometimes we must become the architects of our own belonging. Remember, the journey from exile to belonging is a journey from I am unacceptable to I belong as myself. The universe is waiting for you to come home to your true self. I'll see you in our next lesson. In our next lesson, we will explore the power of shared awakening and how we manifest co-creation in the field. See you there.